Hi everyone! So in this video I wanted to share all of the historical fiction books that I actually like. I have not read that many historical fiction. It's not a genre that I really enjoy to read. It's one of my least favorites, I would say. But I do have some that I've read and I really like them, and so I wanted to have a video where they're all in one video, and these are the books that I like and that I would recommend. So I'm only sharing the ones that I actually like as well. I've read some other historical fiction from this list that just I found really boring, and so I wouldn't recommend them for people who don't like historical fiction. So you'll see a lot of historical romance as well on this list, but one of the ones that isn't romance is called All Quiet on the Western Front. This book I had to read in school in grade 11, and then I read it again in a history class that I took in university. So I've studied this book a lot, and I love this story. This story is what gave me the most perspective on World War I and what it was like for the soldiers that were on the Western Front. And so you follow a French soldier who's fighting in World War I, and you just see his story throughout it. Lots of different things happen, and it's really devastating. Like, you get to really see into his inner mental health and what he goes through. He's really young. I think he's like 19 or 20, like he's a young guy. It didn't sugarcoat anything. There was a lot of hard stuff to read in here. It is clean though, from what I remember. I don't believe that there's any swear words or like anything else. It's just straight up like an account of what happened. So it is from the French perspective though, so there are Germans in it, and actually it's pretty balanced. Like, you get to see a bit of the German side as well, I guess, and it's not painted as like they're evil and every soldier was, you know, bad and whatever. I think it was pretty balanced in my opinion. So anyways, yeah, I love this book. I've been meaning to reread it for a long time because it really like made me sympathize with soldiers and veterans and people who have went through like a world war. It's really intense. It's like there is serious trauma. I really appreciate the perspective it gave me, and it just helped paint a picture of what the war was actually like. So yeah, definitely recommend this one. So that's also the only book that I've read that's based on an actual event. Although I have read other books, but from the ones that I like, that's the only one that I've read that's based on a real historical event. The rest are just set in historical time periods, but they don't follow like real things that happened. So and the rest that I have to show, actually no, there's one more that doesn't have romance. The Light Between Oceans is another book that I think it's set in like the 1960s, so is that historical? I mean, it is for me. I was not born in the 1960s. So anyways, yeah, this book also I really enjoyed. It gave me another perspective into the mind of trauma and motherhood and everything to do with pregnancy, like pretty intense. So this book was really popular when it first came out as well. It follows this couple that live kind of on a remote island at a lighthouse off the coast of Australia, and that's their job, but they are totally isolated. It's just them, and they are trying to get pregnant, and she continues to lose her pregnancies. She has had several miscarriages, and then the story kind of picks up with her pregnancy goes the longest it's ever gone, and then unfortunately again she loses the pregnancy, and so she is like fully traumatized. Like, all she wants to be is a mother. They see like a shipwreck on shore. They go check it out, and there's a body in it of a man, and then there's also a crying baby that is still alive, and so they rescue the baby, and different things happen to where they decide to not report the baby, they just keep it. And so they raise it as their own. That's their new child. They tell everyone, hey, her pregnancy made it, she had a baby, so her whole family thinks that this is her biological child. And you follow that story of how the couple goes through raising this child and then the things that happen. I thought it was quite the look into the human psyche of how far you'll go when your morals are shady and you can't tell what right from wrong, because it gets to the point of like, what's actually right for the child now, and it's hard. So anyways, that's another historical that I like. Okay, on to all of the historical romance that I love. Number one, just really quickly, Redeeming Love, of course. I do love this book. I'm gonna reread it soon, and this is set in the 1800s at some point, during the California Gold Rush, 1850, yeah. It's a pretty intense story, but you do follow a prostitute named Angel, and this man named Michael sees her and is like, I need to marry her. And so he goes and courts her and like convinces her to come home with him, and he marries her, but she struggles with leaving her prostitution life behind. And so it's the story of how the two of them make it. And yeah, there's lots of like references to where they are. It is very historical in the setting as well. So yeah, you get flashbacks to Angel's younger life as well. I'll stick with Francine Rivers as well. I also love A Voice in the Wind, the Mark of the Lion trilogy. This is set like in biblical times, so like long time ago, and so that is definitely historical. And I loved reading about Rome and all the people and just like what it was like back then. It definitely like shows how the elite lived and then also how servants lived. And yeah, I love this trilogy as well. So that is the Francine Rivers books that are historical that I like. Another historical fiction book that I really like is called With Every Breath by Elizabeth Camden. And I know that she's written a lot of books, a lot of historical books. So I do plan to read more from this author, but I've only ever read With Every Breath. But I really enjoyed it. I thought the writing was great, and the characters were really good. Their dynamic was funny. But this is set during, I think, the early 1900s, when tuberculosis is a huge problem. So you follow this doctor who is trying to find a cure for it, and he like has a hospital that is just for tuberculosis patients. And he ends up hiring a woman to be like his bookkeeper kind of, and she actually also wanted to be like a physician, but the two of them actually have a history. They both went to the same school, and she tried to get a scholarship to go to university, but he beat her and got the scholarship instead. So she's kind of like held a grudge against him. She thinks that he thinks he's better than her, and like he's like stuck up and whatever. So, but she needs this job, so she joins his practice to help him cure tuberculosis, and it's their relationship. So it is romance, but also there's a lot of like medical talk and history and stuff, but I thought it was done really well. I didn't find it boring, and like there's a couple like mystery twisty kind of things that happen that I thought was really good. Overall, I was very impressed, so I definitely liked this book, and I've been planning to read from this author again for a long time, but it just hasn't happened because historical fiction is hard for me to choose to read over contemporary fiction. But yeah, that's an author that has a lot of books, so I would definitely recommend her. And then Karen Witemeyer also is an author that has a lot of books. Not as sure that I would check out more of her books, but I did read, what's it called, A Worthy Pursuit, and I thought it was really sweet. So this is set in the 1800s at some point in America, and you follow a teacher who works at kind of like an orphanage, and they lose their funding. And so the orphanage is shutting down, and she ends up keeping some of the kids with her, which I guess is legally not allowed. So she kind of like steals them away and hides them with her, and so she is kind of in hiding on the run with these kids. And you then follow a grandfather of one of the kids who hired an investigator to find her, and the investigator does find her, and it's the two of them that meet. There's a romance, and the investigator ends up helping her because there's something going on with the grandpa. So yeah, I thought it was good. Like, it didn't blow me away, but I still like enjoyed it. It was a nice read. It is pouring rain. Can you hear the rain? I don't know. I can hear it. Okay, another major historical fiction romance author that I really like is Julie Klassen. I've read a ton of her books and I really enjoy them. I'll tell you my favorites. The Silent Governess, that's the first book that I read by her, and I loved it. It's about this girl who's on the run from her family, and you're not sure why, and she ends up hiding on this estate, and then because she's hiding there, she hears a secret of the estate's family that is like pretty major, and they discover her, so they're like, we can't let you go because you know our secret and we can't trust you. So they kind of like blackmail her into being their maid or governess or something. She ends up working for the household. An event happens that makes her lose her voice for a little bit, which was pretty intense to read. Be aware of assault in that case, but it's over pretty quick and it's not super graphic, but there is an assault scene. Anyways, so she ends up working at this household, and the son of the household is the love interest, and there's a mystery with her family first of all, and then the mystery with the family she's working with, and I really enjoyed that. I really wanted to know both sides and like what was happening. But then I also loved the tutor's daughter. This one is about a tutor and his daughter that go to a household that they tutored the two older sons that are the same age as the daughter back in the day, and now there's two more younger sons that they're gonna go tutor. And so the daughter goes with him. The sons are out and about all the time and whatever, and it's her relationship there, and then also that whole family has quite the mystery around them. There's usually always a mystery, I guess, in her books too, which is always fun. I really enjoyed this one. I thought it was very funny and very cute, and I loved the ending. These are all Christian as well, so it has great faith. I think Julie Klassen writes faith into her books really well. The other book by her that I really like is The Maid of Fairbourne Hall. So this one is a trope that I really like, where this like really rich girl runs away from her family because they're gonna try to force her to marry someone. So she runs away and pretends to be a maid at this household, and one of the sons is her love interest, but yet not, because she's like a servant, so he doesn't actually like her, but he's like drawn to her because they do know each other in real life too. And it was just so funny to watch her like try to be a maid because she didn't know how to do anything. And yeah, I enjoyed it. So Julie Klassen is my go-to historical fiction writer for sure. I love her books. Okay, and then also Carrie Turansky, she wrote No Ocean Too Wide. It's a little duology, and you follow this family of kids. The mom falls ill and has to go to the hospital, and so the oldest daughter is away working somewhere, and so the three youngest are left to be on the streets and try to help themselves, and they end up getting arrested and put into an orphanage, and then the orphanage sends them across the ocean to Canada because they've been sending orphans to Canada to kind of sell them, not in like a really bad way, but just like sell them to families in Canada that need more labor or whatever. Some families want actual children too, but yeah, so then the older sister finds out that they got sent away when they shouldn't have been, because the mom was still alive. The sister could have been their guardian, but she just wasn't told, and so she has to try to get over to Canada to get her siblings back. And she ends up getting help from a nice lawyer guy, and so they have a little romance, but it's pretty mild. Like, it's more so friendship, and then it's like the journey they have to take to get over to Canada, so there's a bit more legal talk, and then really great faith in this book as well. So I would definitely recommend that if you're interested. Okay, and then also I did enjoy reading Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. I've only ever read Pride and Prejudice and Persuasion. I found Persuasion kind of long-winded. I wasn't as into it. I found it a little more boring, but Pride and Prejudice I actually really enjoyed. It's nice that I can picture the movie, so that helped like get me through it. I didn't love the writing. I find it a little bit hard to get into, but I still love the story of Pride and Prejudice, and I would recommend it. That's a historical fiction that I do like. So that is all of the historical fiction that I would recommend. I haven't read that much more past this list, but if I have read it, then I must have thought it was pretty boring and I couldn't recommend it, but these are the ones that I actually like, and for the most part, if there's romance, that helps it a lot. I just really enjoy to read romance. Yeah, based on this list, if there's any books that you really love that you think I would love to know your recommendations. We can have kind of a recommendation party in the comments. And yeah, I hope that you got something out of this video, so you can kind of see like the style of historical fiction that I like. And thank you for watching, you guys. I will see you next time. Bye.